Hey, welcome to World Entertainment, and it's here, the full review for Star Trek Section 31. Yes, there will be spoilers in this because, let's face it, no one cares. And I will say, flat out, right out the gate, I hated every last second that I had to watch this thing that they are calling Star Trek Section 31. Ironically though, the actual film, and I'll put that in air quotes, film, isn't even called Star Trek Section 31. It's actually only called Section 31. That's right, in the opening titles and stuff, it never actually says the words Star Trek. It simply says Section 31. And that's all you need to know, because there isn't a lick of Star Trek in this unmitigated biggest pile of steaming donkey shit that I have ever seen in my life. I tell you what, you know things are bad when IGN gave this thing a 2 out of 10. Because they never give crap like this a 2. It's always like a 7 out of 10. They gave it a 2. The critics hate this thing as much as the fans. And that's shocking. It is mind-blowingly stupid. And I literally mean mind-blowingly stupid. I think this thing was written in crayon on one piece of paper. That's how bad this thing is. So what is the actual story? What is the plot for this? Well, when Emperor Georgiou was in the Terran Empire in the Mirror Universe, she decided if she was ever to die, she is going to make sure that nobody could rule the universe without her. So she makes a magical bullshit machine called the Godsend. And what this thing does is it destroys half a quadrant in a system. Yeah. So here we go again with Alex Kurtzman and all these morons working on modern Trek, not having the slightest iota of distances, sizes, and how general physics and things like that work. And they say this little tiny, and it's like it's a tiny little ball type thing, that, oh yeah, once that goes off, it'll destroy half a quadrant. How does the bomb know what a half of a quadrant is? Does it just stop at the borders or something? It's ridiculous. But she was meant to have had it destroyed, and it's not destroyed, obviously, but it's now in the normal universe. It's out of the Terran Mirror Universe, and it's in our universe. Now, there's massive issues regarding time period in this. And the issue is, we don't actually know when this thing is meant to actually take place. And what I mean by that is, they give you a start date at the beginning, which was something like start date 1292.4 or something. And if you break that down, that puts it basically in and around TNG. So you'd be looking at Picard would probably be in his mid-30s, maybe early 40s, which means he'd be probably in command of the Stargazer by now. But Rachel Garrett is only a lieutenant in it. By the way, remember they said she was going to be like a small role? No, she's not. She's one of the main characters of the entire bloody thing. So the issue isn't just that she's in there, which makes no sense. It's also the fact that someone from the Terran universe ends up in this one. They come true, but they're the same age they were when you last saw them in that place, which means they have to be back in that time period. And I'm trying to skirt around this part, who this is and stuff, but you'll see what I mean when we get into it. You'll see exactly what I mean by who this person is and where it should actually place this. And of course, we know Georgiou was sent back from the 32nd century because she couldn't be away from her own timeline. It's not the case of she couldn't survive outside of the Mirror Universe. It's she couldn't survive being away from her timeline, which means she has to be back into Discovery's timeline. And then there's like tricorders. Well, they say they're tricorders. They make the sound of tricorders from TNG. They're Apple iPhones. They literally are iPhones with the torch and everything. They didn't even try and come up with something new. It's literally a phone, a mobile phone, in a hard case cover that they even have the flashlights on. And you're like, sweet Jesus. So right off the bat, you are introduced to young Georgiou doing the trial to become Empress. It's not just a case of you just, take out your enemies and stuff and claim power. No, you're actually sent through trials as a teenager, basically. And she came up with this other guy. Her and this other guy were the only two remaining. And there was one task left to do. What is that task? Well, it's to kill her family. How does she do that? She poisons them, apparently, with, some soup. Here's the thing, though, right? Number one, the girl who plays young Georgiou seems to have a British accent and whispers every word she says. Literally whispers every word she says. But she comes back, her family are picking, crops or something. They turn around, oh, she's back. Vendor in the kitchen. She's still in by the way, they live in huts. Oh, and they do that stupid thing with the big writing that moves around with the camera and stuff, which there'll be an image in here somewhere. By the way, for the town Empire, they're living in wooden fucking huts out in the desert. It's like, you realize they still had the same technology that's in the normal universe. It's the mirror universe. It's the people that are different, not the technology, but they're living in huts, apparently. But she's standing there, talking with her family, but she's still filthy and exhausted looking stuff. You never see her poisoning the soup. I suppose it's a soup. You're never hinted that she poisoned the soup. And her family just kind of start choking and dying, but they keep showing this boiling soup, and it's like, did she poison the soup? And the only way she could do that is, are you telling us she made the soup? You telling me we're meant to believe that this woman came back from whatever tournament she's doing, she's filthy, she's tired, she could barely stand, and you're telling us you made her make you dinner? Yeah. But the other guy refused to do that. He couldn't kill his family, so she becomes Empress. He has to become her second, his slave, basically. And in doing so, she has to burn half his face with a sword. Now here's the thing, she burns his cheek, and literally only his cheek, yet when we see him later, he's got a burn that goes from just above his eyebrow all the way down his cheek, across his chin, and down his neck. It's like, how did you get that? She literally stuck a hot blade to the side of your face. She burnt your cheek, dude. How are you Two-Face all of a sudden? The movie then, Section 31 basically comes in. I'm just going to fly through this actually just because I don't really want to talk about it. I hate it. Section 31 come in, give her the job. She joins. They don't know what's in this case. They just know the case is coming. She comes up with a plan how to get the case. She's got this phase thing that makes her phase and makes other objects phase, that you can't hit them, you can't shoot them, she can walk through walls and stuff, and yet they don't fall through the floor. In fact, when she turns the phase thing on the case the guy is holding, it phases through his hand but lands solidly on the floor. But then they're walking through walls with it and stuff. It's like, okay, stupid. But then you find out that it's this thing she thought she destroyed, the godsend. With that, the guy who's after it, this other guy shows up to take it, and they just keep doing these big long fight scenes that are horrible as well. But he's a black noir looking fucker. They made another black noir looking thing. He takes it, buggers off, beams out. We meet the crew as well. I suppose they should get through this part as well. The crew, fuck if I know what their names are, and couldn't care less. Except one is Rachel Grant, the captain of the Enterprise C. But she's a lieutenant, and she's there to make sure they don't cross any lines, even though that's exactly what Section 31 do, which makes no sense. And then you're told later on she's there because she broke the rules and she's a rule breaker. She even has the line, I kid you not, she has the line that chaos, she loves chaos. Chaos is her friend with benefits. Yeah. Well, speaking of that, there is somewhat of an alien sex scene. Georgiou phases in through a wall and we see an Andorian having sex with some weird slug looking thing. Don't believe me? You'll see the image in here somewhere. Then we have the guy who's in a suit that looks like a Borg suit. Apparently he's got something wrong with his body, that the suit is a mech suit, and basically it's how he survives. But he's a retard. He's full on retarded. It's like Simple Jack in a suit. This robotic suit. He's literally dumb as a bag of hammers. And anything you say to him, he gets super offended by. And he keeps referring to himself in the third person. Which brings us to the Vulcan. Yes, it is a Vulcan you see laughing his ass off. And he does laugh his ass off. Except he's not actually a Vulcan. It's a robotic suit. Yes, it's basically an android. Looks like a Vulcan. But there's a tiny little alien that lives inside him that controls him. That, like, it's a robotic suit. And this thing pilots it. And he can stick it on autopilot. It also has a ridiculous Irish accent for some reason. Don't know why. The guy who plays it is South African. So they got a South African to play Vulcan with an Irish accent. This, like, over-the-top Irish accent. That the actual little weird alien thing inside him that actually operates him also has the Irish accent. I don't know. Yeah. Then there's the bald bird who is Delton, who, if anyone knows the motion picture, Ilea was Delton. I'm pretty sure they're meant to be a dead species, but either way, she's a Delton. She doesn't last too long. She gets killed. Then there's the main black dude with the beard. He's... this is also where things get confusing with the timeline, mainly because they can't stick to their own canon, but he's an augment, i.e. for people who are like, what's that? He's an enhanced human, the same as Khan. Then you have the other black dude who's a shapeshifter. That's the crew. They're basically the Suicide Squad, and literally it's the Suicide Squad. But you find out Black Noir is the guy who Georgiou loved in the Mirror Universe, the guy who was meant to be her slave, who she thought killed himself. He looked like he took the poison and died when he gave her the weapon. So all that aside, it's crap. They have to go out and get this thing now, and of course he sets it. But they find out there's a mole in their midst. Who's the mole? It's the Vulcan. Not the Vulcan. It's the little thing in the Vulcan that he sabotaged and everything. And it's just stupid. But the Vulcan and the Borg-looking dude are two of the most annoying characters in the history of Star Trek. And I literally mean that, hands down, 150,000% guaranteed. They are the two most annoying characters in the history of this franchise, because they just try and do jokes. Everything they say is jokes, and they get offended by everything super quickly, and it just goes over the top, and it's just like, sweet Jesus. The ship they end up having, by the way, the ship's horrible. The typical new modern Trek designs, which is literally, let's just stick a ton of shapes together and see what happens. That's all that they are. They end up having to use this old garbage disposal ship of some sort. And for some reason, when it doesn't even explain whether these are shields or not. They just turn this thing on, but it's also used for tractor beam stuff. The ship ends up turning into a fucking proton pack from Ghostbusters, because you literally see the streams coming out of the ship. You're like, what the hell is this? By the end, they have a big fight on the villain ship. The little alien dude flies out of the Vulcan, leaves that on autopilot to fight the black guy, buggers off, gets in a little ship, goes after the junk ship, blows up, whatever. Not the junk ship, the little ship. Apparently he's not dead though. The Vulcan gets stabbed in either the eye or the face. It's hard to tell which, and he's like, yeah, the funny thing is, I'm on autopilot, and then dies. Georgiou doesn't even kill the dude. He kills himself, basically. The villain, she kicks his hand, and he manages to stick a sword into his own neck, and then says, you were the best ever, and even now you still teach me better than I could have taught you. No, it's the typical shite. And basically, to get rid of the device, yeah, they just send it back to the Terran Empire and close the portal with it. So, you just caused mass genocide. Cool. By the way, she's holding it when they get beamed out. It's like, that would have beamed with you. Yeah, because you did it in a frantic effort to get them off the ship. You would never have calibrated things to not transport that thing with them. And it's meant to be left to like, oh my god, they didn't get them. And then they beam on, they did get them. Now, regarding timelines and stuff, we'll jump into, because now that it's spoiled, the villain was her fella. He looks the exact same as he did when he supposedly died in the Terran Empire. That is when she was in full command of the Terran Empire. So this is before Discovery came across, which means they have to be in the Discovery timeline, in and around those events. However, the tricorders and everything else would indicate that they're in the stage of TNG, which if they're not, if they are in the Discovery timeline, then Rachel Garrett is 40 years too early to even be born. But if she's if they're in the Next Generation timeline, then she's far too young to even be close to command of the Enterprise C, and Picard would be out there, and again he would probably at this stage already be in command of the Stargazer. But then when you find out the guy is an augment, well, you're told, oh, I'm from the 20th century. Okay, problem with that is Strange New Worlds already put out there that the eugenics wars, because he says he was a part of the eugenics wars and survived that. The issue there is Strange New Worlds already said the eugenics wars now didn't take place until the end, or literally the middle to the end of the 21st century. So they can't even keep up with their own canon. The special effects in this is god awful. You'll see images here and there. There's these platform things that they go down these tunnels. It's the worst scenes I've ever seen in Star Trek. Special effects in the 60s with the old series look better than this. James Cameron made us believe that Arnold Schwarzenegger was punching through a car window and grabbing Linda Hamilton on a moving car, which was simply a wall picture stuck to the side of a truck driving past. The car wasn't, and that looked more believable because none of us knew that, hey, they didn't drive. Wow. This thing is horrendous. It's like they just stuck, not even in front of volume, it's literally like they stuck it in front of TV screens and just shot that. It's horrendously bad. The music, there's no Star Trek music. You get the standard original series start at the very end of the movie, when, yes, you'll see images as well. Jamie Lee Curtis has a cameo. Her voice is at the start. You recognize the voice, and once you realize that Jamie Lee Curtis was in it, you're like, oh, that was Jamie Lee Curtis at the beginning. She's meant to be the head of Section 31 or something. She's sending them. Oh, by the way, she's sending them off on another. If you think that Alex Kurtzman doesn't believe he's not getting a series because of this movie, because he's absolutely trying to set up a series with this pile of dog shit. And holy Christ, if that happens, burn down Paramount Pictures. But the music, it's literally hip-hop music. There's like hip-hop and pop songs throughout this, and then there's like rock guitars and stuff. It's not Star Trek. There's not a single ounce of Star Trek anywhere to be seen on the screen with this unmitigated dog shit of a movie that doesn't even look like a movie, doesn't feel like a movie, doesn't sound like a movie. By the way, the beginning when Georgiou is having her meeting with the black guy in her office, good luck if you can fucking hear a word they're saying, because the music is louder than the goddamn dialogue. So you're like, the hell are they? I'd advise you to watch the beginning with subtitles on. Actually, don't, because you're not going to watch this crap. And I would never recommend that you watch it. If you're a lover of Star Trek, if you grew up watching Star Trek, if you're a massive fan of Star Trek, avoid this thing like the goddamn plague, because you will hate every single thing about it, and you'll hate yourself for watching it. It's not Star Trek. For the love of God, fire Alex Kurtzman, and fire every single person who wrote the script for this, produced it, and directed it. Get rid of them all. Never let them work again. Holy Jesus. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. There's probably crap I'm forgetting to tell you, and you know what? It doesn't matter, because I'm already starting to forget this pile of shit that I watched. So cheers, and I will catch you in the next one. Live long and prosper.